Normally, when there's a guest author on a comic that I love, I'm fairly nervous. There are a lot of reasons for a guest author. Maybe the regular author got sick, or is overcommitted on their jobs, or they're helping to orchestrate a huge crossover or something. It happens, and typically you can only pray that the guest author has some familiarity with the book that they're guesting on. I just read Marvel's Nomad ongoing series from 1992, and Neil Hansen guest wrote issue 21, and it was bad. The basic idea of the story was good, but the execution was sloppy as all get out. It's the kind of guest author issue that comic fans live in fear of. But that is not the case today. You see, this guest author showed up because regular writer Gail Simone wanted them to. Now, the exact nature of this team-up is a bit murky to me. There are several factors all coming together to bring comics legend John Ostrander to the Secret Six, and so contributing his presence here to any one factor is unrealistic. A definite part of it is because Simone loved his writing. I read an interview between the pair on Newsarama, and Ostrander's run on the Suicide Squad is more than familiar to Simone. Ostrander is a writer that she respects and enjoys, and getting to work with him is a treat in and of itself. But back in 2010, when this issue was first published, Ostrander was also facing some steep medical bills due to his glaucoma. So whether he contacted DC looking for work, or if DC contacted him, or if Simone had been courting him to write Deadshot again, the character he really made during his run on the Suicide Squad, is generally unknown. What I do know is that Gail Simone wanted to read more of Ostrander's Deadshot. And so here we are, at Secret 6 issue 15, written by John Ostrander and starring Deadshot. My name is Ben, and this is Comic Book Breakdown episode Secret 6.8, Standalones, Part 2. Deadshot didn't go with the Six after their adventure on Devil's Island at the end of the last arc. He stayed behind to kill Mr. Smith, and honestly, I was just expecting him to show up at the House of Secrets like a stray cat. But no, Ostrander takes this moment to re-examine Floyd Loughton as a person. The book opens in Gotham at Philip's Diner, an old-school diner under the tracks. Floyd is inside at a table, sipping coffee, smoking directly underneath the no-smoking sign as he imagines everyone in the cafe dead at his hands. This has been happening for a few issues, actually. We would see a room full of people, the next panel would be red, and everyone in it would be dead, and then Floyd would blink, and things would be back to normal. I just thought that it was meant to show us how Floyd looks at the world. I didn't think it was going to be an actual plot point. But it is, and so Floyd has reached out to Reverend Richard Kramer. Kramer used to be a chaplain at Belle Reve, the prison that the Suicide Squad operates out of. He asks Floyd if he's back with the squad, and he answers no. They did him dirty last time that they ran together, a nod to the last Squad miniseries written by Ostrander that ran between the Six's miniseries and the main ongoing series. If Floyd does see them again, he owes them some bullets first. So, why is he reaching out then? Floyd feels like he's losing control, referring to his red flashes. The Reverend asks if he's feeling suicidal, and Floyd imagines him dead. No, more like homicidal, am I right? He's been getting the desire to just kill everyone, on and off. In fact, if he had a gun on him, Kramer would be dead right now. Kramer takes this as a joke. He's spoken to the Spectre before, DC's spirit of vengeance and judgment. It takes quite a bit more than this to scare him. But Deadshot isn't trying to scare him. Floyd tells him about meeting Neron, the DC equivalent of Satan, once before, as well as his recent adventure with the Get Out of Hell Free card that we saw in the Unhinged arc. Floyd confirms that the only reason he took it was to save the rest of the Six. Kramer asks if that's when these urges started. Did losing the card have that much of an impact on him? Floyd can't remember when they started, and he sure isn't worried about his soul. He's confident that he's damned no matter what happens. What he is worried about is his sense of control. Then he gets up, suggesting that they go for a walk. If he does lose control, better that only Kramer gets killed. I've never read The Suicide Squad, so I don't know jack about that book or this Reverend Kramer guy. But it's interesting that Floyd contacts him. You would think that a religious figure wouldn't be Floyd's go-to guy. They're kinda judgmental, you know? But Kramer seems understanding about Floyd's habits, if not outright okay with it. To be fair, Floyd typically kills bad people, but he's also shown an indifference towards who he is killing. But Kramer talks for the most part as if he's talking to an old friend. It's surprising, but it works for the narrative, as it gives Floyd someone that he can talk to honestly and openly. The pair starts their walk at Deadshot's old house. He bought the house after his dad cut him off for marrying beneath his station. He lived here with Susan and Eddie, his first wife and son. Eddie would eventually be killed, Susan would kill herself, and the house ended up empty. Eventually, a gang moved in and started selling drugs. One day, Deadshot came home. He killed every gang member in the building, save their leader. He shoots him twice, but leaves him alive, telling him to leave this house alone. They can take the damn neighborhood, but they do not touch this house. Just before Deadshot leaves, he tells the man to spread the word. This is a Deadshot who's in control. His assault on the gang is sudden and swift. He doesn't say anything as he moves through the house. He doesn't dodge or take cover from their own fire or jump or anything. He just walks through, calmly eliminating everyone as they appear before him. It's actually pretty chilling, missing any sense of revelry that the Six's interpretation of Deadshot has shown in the field. Now, that's most likely just the difference in writing style between Ostrander and Simone, but I also think that Ostrander is showing us how much this building means to Shot. Even if he doesn't live here anymore, this house does mean something to him. His method of clearing the house isn't like it's a job. It's a personal mission, an extermination, and Floyd's demeanor has changed to reflect that. But Deadshot does have a sense of humor, and that's evident in the next scene. Kramer suggests that they move somewhere safer. This isn't one of the better parts of Gotham. I mean, if there is a better part of Gotham. That gets Floyd thinking about how much he loved the city when he was growing up. And then he thinks about his first run-in with Batman. The Loughtons had been invited to a costume ball charity event at Wayne Manor, having been in the same social circles as them when he was younger. Mr. and Mrs. Loughton went together, hating each other for every minute of it, but Floyd was there crashing the party. He's dressed as a dapper gentleman cowboy. He's got a nice black suit, domino mask, a top hat, and a nice pair of six-shooters. There are some insults traded between parents and son, showing how fractured the Loughton family is. Having finally pissed his father off, the old man leaves, taking his wife with him, leaving Floyd alone at the party. This largely serves to demonstrate the type of man that Floyd is, and the type of family that he came from. A broken, bitter one. Inside, he runs into the man of the hour himself, Bruce Wayne. Bruce enters the room in his PJs, a lingerie-clad beauty on each arm. He recognizes Floyd, even in costume, and says hello. Floyd is thrown by this, both by Bruce recognizing him and Bruce recognizing the character that he's there as. But he's an eccentric millionaire, right? So he doesn't think too hard about it. He's called away by his lady friends, and Floyd is sure that he missed the irony in his costume. Floyd is dressed as Raffles, the gentleman thief, who got away with robbing from the rich because he was one of them. A group of men in body armor and face masks enter the room, the one in charge firing off his gun. They are the collection agency, and they are here to collect. As the agency passes around bags for their loot, Floyd watches, a grin on his face. You see, he's the one behind the collection agency. Only their boss knows it, but yeah, he set this job up. Sure, he had hoped for his parents to be there, but one thing going wrong isn't that bad. Then the lights go out. Batman drops in the room silently, his fight shown only in bursts of lightning. He dispatches the men with ease, and the boss turns to look at Floyd in a panic. Floyd could read the man in that instant. If the boss was going down, he was taking Floyd with him. He raises his gun, his mouth opening to make a shout or a growl. But Floyd's bullet hits him first. The lights snap back on. Batman is gone, and Floyd is left holding a smoking gun over a dead body. He freezes. He just shot a man in the head at a social event. This isn't going to end well. But then the crowd thanks him. They were about to be robbed, and I'm sure some of them were thinking possibly murdered by these men. Floyd just saved them, and so they rush in, thanking him. One of the women even shouts that she wants to have his baby. One of the men asks, "What do we call you, hero?" Floyd smirks. "Call him Deadshot." Another guest calls out that they hear police sirens. This guy also shouts for Deadshot to go. They'll handle the cops. And so, a hero was born. Wait a minute. A hero? Turns out, yeah, Floyd started his career as Deadshot as a superhero. Inspired by that night, Floyd made a costume and a firing rig and became Gotham's newest hero, Deadshot. While Batman defended the night, Deadshot worked during the day. According to Floyd, he was actually more popular than Batman for a time. But, much like the botched collection agency job, it was all a scam. Deadshot collected protection money from the gangs so they could continue to operate. That feels more like the Floyd Loughton that I've come to know and love. Eventually, Batman did take him down. Deadshot even got the drop on him, firing point blank at Batman. But it didn't take. Batman still defeated him. He got jail time and ended up in Belle Reve, and that eventually put Shot in a position for his time on the Suicide Squad. Kramer knows all about that portion of the story. The end of the story gives Kramer pause. So Floyd shot Batman? At point-blank range? But he obviously didn't kill him, so what happened? Floyd says that his bullets never touched him. You see, Batman figured out who Deadshot really was, went to his base of operations, and then switched out his ammo for blanks. Then he set him up and knocked him down. The memory makes Floyd smile, actually. He's got to respect the cunning there. The pair's leisurely walk is then interrupted by the exact opposite of cunning. Sheer stupidity. A young teenager walks out of an alley, a gun in hand, and declares this to be T-Bone's, yeah, with a Z, territory. If they want to pass, then they need to pay. Fully aware of how Gotham works, Kramer explains that he's going to pull his wallet out of his back pocket and get out his money, but Floyd tells him not to bother. This isn't a robbery. This is an initiation. This kid has to kill them or he'll be killed. Not that Floyd is worried. This kid doesn't have the balls to do the job. The kid swears that he'll do it. He'll kill them. So Floyd steps forward, butting his chest against the pistol. So do it. The gang hopeful chokes, and Floyd snatches the gun right out of his hands. He turns the pistol around, aiming at his face. All right, then he'll do it. Kramer tells Floyd that he doesn't want to do this. We get another red panel, Floyd dressed as Deadshot, shooting this kid in the head. No, Floyd definitely wants to kill him. Truth be told, he even wants to kill Kramer afterwards. Kramer then starts to talk him down. He suspects that these urges probably started when Batman died, or disappeared, or whatever happened to him. I love that an in-universe character even admits to the bullshit that death can be for a superhero. Batman died around the same time as the anniversary of Floyd's brother's, Eddie's, death. Floyd calls bullshit on that too, but Kramer pushes on. There is a connection here. Floyd showed that to Kramer himself. He took Kramer to his old house first, where his son, named after Eddie, lived. And then right after, Floyd told him the Batman story. Kramer suggests that Floyd was the bad son, while Eddie was the good son, just like Deadshot was the bad hero while Batman was the good hero. But now they're both dead. Batman, Eddie, even Floyd's son, Ed. And he's failing to process those losses. Floyd is looking at the world and seeing himself in everyone else. That the bad guy, the bad son, is still alive when he should be dead. These images that he keeps seeing, he's killing himself as represented by his victims. That doesn't quite make sense for Floyd. But it feels right, Kramer asks, doesn't it? There are lots of things in the world that aren't right, but that feel right. Floyd continues to pause, and then he pulls the pistol up. You know, that's good enough. Thanks, Reverend. He tells the kid to leave, and he does so with gusto. Floyd then thanks Kramer for the help and starts to leave. The Reverend tries to get him to stay. That was just a theory, Floyd. He needs way more therapy than that to get to the actual bottom of this. Yeah, Floyd's heard that before. But he's back in control now, and that's what he wanted. Kramer asks what will happen if Floyd loses that control again. Floyd walks away, his hands in his pockets. Then I guess you'll read about it. Well, that's an abrupt ending, ain't it? Is that a John Ostrander thing? I don't know, but it is sudden as hell. Despite my unfamiliarity with Ostrander's writing, this issue feels like an issue of The Secret Six. The tone and the grim humor are spot on. I think that the first time I read this issue, I didn't even realize that another author wrote it, which is pretty impressive. It's not often a guest author can write a book and maintain the titles, everything. Ostrander does keep the focus on Deadshot. There's little mention of the Six, but this isn't strange to this particular book. Looking at issues 8 and 9, Simone stayed focused on the stories that she was telling as well, ignoring all of the rest of the cast members to keep her narrative clean. And given the rough time that Floyd just had in the Depths arc, he needed some character focus. Of course, Deadshot is like Ostrander's character in a lot of people's eyes, so it's only fitting that he focuses his attention on him. I like this look back at Floyd's life. Again, outside of The Secret Six, I've never read a comic featuring Deadshot, and Simone does very little storytelling with his past. I think she's reticent to touch upon it. I think she's a little bit too much of a fan to really work with Deadshot's history. She would much rather write him for a time and then ultimately leave him in the hands of DC, given that they own the character, and so it's hard for her to kind of mess with him. This, then, is a nice kind of learner's course for me, and potentially any other reader who's unfamiliar with Floyd. The scene at Wayne Manor was a ton of fun, but I was also sad to learn about his wife and son. Oh, and Floyd killed his brother? What's up with that? Ostrander does a great job utilizing Floyd's past to examine this character and to get the audience asking more questions. At the end of this, I'm left with lingering questions about Floyd and his life, which is good, because the ending of it is pretty lame. It's just so sudden. I don't feel like I have any closure at all. I don't really buy Kramer's psych eval of Floyd either. The idea that Floyd knows that he's a bad guy, is pretty valid. The character's been pretty open about who he is, and what he does, and where he thinks he's going to end up because of it. But Ostrander adds in the layer that Floyd thinks that he should be dead, and that better people should be alive, and I don't know about that. While Floyd is honest about who he is, he's never really felt self-hating to me, nor has he ever felt suicidal. But, then again, he regularly puts himself into situations where he could die pretty casually. He just walked up to that gangbanger's gun in this particular issue. Is Floyd's willingness to die a manifestation of his suicidal tendencies, just left up to others? Perhaps he can't or won't kill himself, but if someone else does it, that he's okay with that? The other notable thing about this issue is the new art team. We have now passed the halcyon days of Nicola Scott and enter the era of Jim Calafiore. After the next issue's guest artist, Calafiore draws the rest of the Six's ongoing series, all the way until the end. He inks this issue as well, too, although regular colorist Jason Wright did stay on board. I have mixed feelings about Calafiore's artwork. Let me say right off the bat, that he isn't a bad artist. He draws a monthly book on time with lively artwork, he's able to draw big or small casts, and he's got versatility. Calafiore can draw people, cars, cities, dinosaurs, space stuff, magic stuff, you name it, he's got it. The man has been in the industry for a long time and has some really solid runs under his belt. But I just don't like his stuff. I find Calafiore's characters to be just too blocky and stiff and square. All of the men have the same thick, meaty jaw and facial build, the same muscular torso. They just have different costumes on. I look at Calafiore's artwork here and it feels exactly the same as his work on Marvel's Exiles, or Forceworks, or New Excalibur. And those books scan like 12 years of comic history. And to be fair, there's definitely an argument to be made that this is a good thing. Calafiore is consistent in his style, even over a series of books separated by years and two separate companies. Whatever problems that I have with Calafiore's artwork, they are definitely Ben-specific. It's me, not you, Jim. Keep doing you. All of that said, Calafiore does an excellent job here. The griminess of the diner, the cold progression of Deadshot cleaning out his house, the Wayne Manor flashback, it all looks good. And I think it's because Wright's colors make Calafiore's artwork sing. The lighting on Deadshot as he kills those drug dealers is great. For all of my personal problems, I don't have a problem here. Issue 15 looks solid. So then we really change things up for issue 16. With Scandal off of the team, the Secret Six are going to need a new member, and Gail Simone is back, joined by penciler Peter Wynn and inkers Doug Hazelwood and Mark McKenna to do the introductions. Issue 16 opens on a prisoner transport. From dialogue cues, we learn that an inmate has agreed to show the authorities to the hidden bodies of his victims in exchange for avoiding the death sentence. Rain, thunder, and lightning pound down on everyone there as they stop, and the inmate, Enos, sees something. A flash of lightning reveals a young woman standing next to a tree. She's dressed in black leather and torn fishnets, a tattered cloak hanging from her shoulders. A fedora casts a shadow over her face, but pupilless eyes shine out from underneath. But once the lightning fades, she's gone. When Enos brings it up, the authorities escorting him thinks that he's just referring to the local cops who just pulled up. Enos takes them to the first grave. This was Katie Sanchez, a 4 out of 5 in his rating system. One of the cops hauls Enos up, shouting that she was just a child. The other officers pull him back, but now Enos has had his feelings hurt. Seems he's forgotten where he buried the others. Might as well take him back to prison. He'll see if he can recall it some other time. The two local police step forward now, revealed to be Thomas Blake and Floyd Loughton. They quickly state that they're here to free Enos. They down the cops non-lethally, which is a little surprising, and take off their charge as cuffs. Enos is naturally relieved, and the pair escort him to their prison van. He needs to ride in the back so as to avoid suspicion, but Floyd will ride with him. He still needs to introduce Enos's benefactor. They step inside, and Enos's face drops. His benefactor is Gerardo Sanchez, Katie's father. When Enos wakes up, he's naked, save for his boxers, and is strapped to a table in a warehouse. He says that he's sick. He can't help his urges. She was so pretty. But Blake and Loughton honestly don't care much. The girl from earlier hangs back in the shadows, and Blake almost spots her. Unnerved by this, and done here anyways, the pair go to leave. Mr. Sanchez can take it from here. But then Sanchez tells them to wait, unsure that he can go through with this. Blake assures Mr. Sanchez that he can, and then he gives him a basic how-to on punish flaying a human body. Remember, don't think of him as human. This is an animal. Just meat. Just a chore to be done. For Katie. Tears run down Mr. Sanchez's face as he thanks them. As Blake and Loughton leave, Enos starts to scream. Floyd asks Blake if he's down for cheeseburgers, and Blake responds with, "Nah, no veal at least." They get into their car and the headlights snap on, revealing the mystery girl. She saw what they did in there. Both men grab their weapons, expecting her to try to take them in. But that isn't why she's here. She wants to know what that job paid. Hang on, let's break this down. If you couldn't guess, Simone delivers another "the six are scum, but they prey on even worse scum" beginning to the story, in this case a pedophile, rapist, murderer. While I feel no sympathy for Enos, I do feel terrible for Mr. Sanchez. Not just because he lost his daughter to such a terrible action, but because this is how far he's willing to go in her name. You don't read superhero comics unless you're okay with some level of vigilante justice. And I probably saw Tombstone at too young an age, maybe. But even for me, flaying a man alive is a lot. Kill him and be done with it. Blake and Loughton are paired again, another indication of both their friendship and their ability to blend in. There's a part of me that's annoyed that the rift that we got to see in the depths has been so quickly closed, but the six have also been really fast to recover from the damage they do to each other before. Blake does feel particularly cold here, and Loughton even points that out, but, I mean, he is assisting in the kidnapping and torture of a serial rapist/murderer, so he's got reason to feel a little dark. This next bit is a small thing to note, but it's Loughton that's doing the driving here at the end. I think that Blake has driven in almost every scene where the six travel together, short of when they retrieved the Neuron card. But Blake also left the Catmobile in the side of a yacht in issue 9, so perhaps this is Loughton's car. I do think that it matches the car that Floyd drove in issue 8 on the double date, so that's some minor but neat continuity. I like that attention to detail. Simone is doing two things with our newest cast member here. This is Black Alice, a young woman who can borrow the powers of any magic user in the DC universe. She actually debuted in Birds of Prey and appeared in a number of miniseries before she ended up here. So Simone knows that this character has history and potentially a fan base, and she knows that this scene has to be written to both the established fans and to new readers. As a new reader, Alice's visual is pretty dark. As Pixie of the X-Men once said, "I'm dark. I'm goth as hell." She's mysterious, spying on both Enos and then our leads. We don't know what this character wants at the time. Is she an ally? An enemy? So Blake and Loughton's reaction not only makes sense, but is our own. They assume that she's a threat, so we assume that she's a threat, and are thrown when she reveals that she isn't. As an established fan, we would know that Alice is, classically, a heroic character. She's definitely troubled, and she's had some drama with the Birds of Prey, but she isn't some murdering psychopath like the rest of the six are. An established fan would expect her to potentially be hunting the six, perhaps looking to arrest them. So now, when she asks about their job at the end, we're thrown and surprised no matter which category you fit into as a reader. I think that Simone also hints at Alice's purpose with the powers that she's taken on. When Alice borrows the powers of someone, she also takes on aspects of their appearance. In this case, Alice opens the issue dressed as the Phantom Stranger, an enigmatic, mysterious figure in DC's universe. The Stranger is one of those characters who shows up in someone's life or story, either witnesses it or plays a role in it, and then moves on. While he's basically considered a force for good by the rest of the DCU, his true motivations and the limits of his powers are basically unknown. Why does he show up where he shows up? No one can tell. Basically, Simone is hiding Alice's motivation in the identity of the Phantom Stranger, so it's a perfect fit. Blake tells Loughton the skinny on Alice, having heard of her from the Huntress. Loughton wants to just ditch her, but Alice borrows the super strength of Blue Devil and hefts their car over her head. Loughton calls in reinforcements. Neither Bane nor Scandal can believe that the experienced killers are having trouble with some teenage girl. Scandal suggests that they make her feel unwelcome, and that gives Loughton an idea. The three head over to the Superior Gentleman Club. Alice, when prompted, explains that she needs to make some money, but she won't share her motivations for why she's here otherwise. But that's okay. Loughton and Blake aren't really interested, and they head inside. hoping to lose her at the door. But Alice turns into some kind of electrical being and waltzes inside. The three get a table, and the announcer says that it's Thursday night, and that means it's Bad Girls Night. A variety of supervillain-themed dancers take the stage, including Liana as Knockout. A sudden thought occurs to Loughton. How mad will Scandal be if they see Liana's, assets before she does? Scandal informs them that it's too late for that. She, Bane, Ragdoll, and Jeanette have arrived. Bane doesn't approve of anyone being a slave of their genitals. Ragdoll agrees, despite his own lack thereof, and asks for some singles to give out. Liana spots Scandal and is excited that she came to watch her work. Aww. Jeanette likes Alice's overall style, but comments that she's a bit young for this group. Alice likes her costume as well, commenting on her banshee nature. Alice's magical nature seems to allow her to sense Jeanette's true identity, because we aren't told how she does that otherwise. The introductions are then put on hold as the local police show up. Loughton guesses that they followed them, but that's okay, they'll bounce. They don't want to stay on the local police's radar. But Alice says that she's got this. Catman starts to move to join the fight, but Bane stops him. They came here for a show. Well, they just might get one. Jeanette starts to sweat as her powers feel off. Something is happening, although she isn't sure what it is. Alice borrows her powers, and the next page reveals her banshee form. She starts to tussle with the cops, enjoying the banshee's strength and invulnerability. The six are generally not interfering until Liana tells Scandal that she could maybe lose her job over this. So Scandal tackles Alice through a wall, taking the fight outside. But Alice continues to hold her own. Bane tells the six to take her down, so Ragdoll and Catman rush in. When he has a shot, Deadshot fires at her, but the bullets seem to bounce off. This is weird because we've seen Jeanette get shot in the past, although admittedly we've only seen her get shot at when she's not in her banshee form. It's possible that the banshee form gives some level of invulnerability, where otherwise Jeanette is just a normal human being, but I'm not sure. Hopefully this is something we'll see codified a little bit more down the line. Alice manages to get her hands around Scandal's throat, ranting that they never listen. Bane steps forward here. He will listen. He asks her why she wants to join him, and so she powers down. Her dad is sick, and she needs money to help him. Bane warns her about the kind of life that they lead, but she isn't worried about that. If she wants to join the team, she's going to join the team. They can't stop her. She just demonstrated it. So okay, they need the firepower. Bane says that she's in. This upsets Scandal, naturally, and Jeanette says that she doesn't care for Alice much either. I think that this has more to do with her vulnerability to Alice's powers than any other personal reason. Ragdoll is cool with it. Alice calls him hot at the end of the fight, so he's pretty smitten. But Blake is unnerved by her. This girl not only held them all off, but she watched him tell Mr. Sanchez how to torture a man to death. And she's fine with it. That's screwed up. What's going to happen if the six piss her off? At the beginning of Alice's fight scene / audition, Alice began to narrate to her diary. I bring this up because, while they're short entries, it does give us some more insight into who Alice is. She totally enjoys having the banshee powers. She hates bullies, which originally refers to the cops, but then switches to the six when they attack, and for a moment, Alice almost just went ahead and killed them anyways. Her temper tends to get away from her sometimes, and it's why she has troubles making friends. Her very last thought is that she's found someplace to belong, a place where she fits in the Secret Six. And if the place you fit in best is among violent supercriminals, you might want to rethink your life choices. Obviously, this issue is our introduction to Alice, and I gotta say, I don't like her. There's the obvious discord that her presence here signals, No one in the Six approves of her being here except for Bane, so that's sure to cause problems. Plus, I don't know, I get some really strong try-hard vibes off of her. She's a goth teen with superpowers and a rough personal life, so of course she joins a team of supervillains. And I mean, much more forces her way onto a team than joins, too, which now gives me Misfit flashbacks from Birds of Prey. I have no basic problem with Black Alice or Misfit trying to find a place to belong. I can understand that, I can sympathize with that makes sense to me, but forcing your way onto other people's team and into their social situations isn't how you do it. It's annoying, and nobody likes it in real life. You add in superpowers, and now it's just super annoying. Again, like with Misfit, if I ran into somebody like Alice when I was back in high school or something like that, and she was trying to force her way into my circle of friends, no, she would be the person we absolutely wouldn't want to have to deal with. And maybe that does make me a jerk, but it also makes this particular bit of the story less realistic. Alice may have just found herself a job, but she just also found herself 4 coworkers who don't like her and are willing to kill people. All of which is to say that her introduction isn't bad. Simone gives us clear examples of Alice's powers and how they work, her personality, she gives us an emotional hook in wanting to pay for her father's medical care, and then she adds in the drama with the Six. In terms of craft, this issue is well executed. I just don't care for the particular character that it's about. I spoke a bit earlier about Catman feeling off in this. He seems colder than usual, even Floyd commenting on his behavior. Is this a lingering effect of the Devil's Island job? Or does Blake have it in for a pervert like Enos? Or is his inner angel upset about drawing Mr. Sanchez into their type of work? It's hard to tell, and we don't know, but it is Simone giving Catman some more screen time. We also see a number of instances of Bane's leadership, although they're worked in pretty subtly. Scandals dig at Bane's approval of Black Alice shows that she's still stinging from her dismissal. So, while the Six take a back seat in the larger narrative here so that we can focus on Black Alice, they are present and accounted for, and they're well written. The artwork by Peter Wynn does a decent job telling the story. He uses a lot of heavy shadows, even if the reasons for those shadows aren't very well established. I think that the artwork here is generally saved by Jason Wright's colors. Whether that's the moody purples of the opening with Enos, the shift to a strained greenish yellow with Mr. Sanchez, or the cold blues of the final fight with Alice. Wright is able to convey mood and consistency, his work excellent as usual. This is super helpful, because Wynn's artwork is rough. His figures and faces shift from panel to panel. Everyone's faces feel too thin and pointed. Gone are the square jaws of Nicholas Scott or Jim Calafiore. Wynn also doesn't put in a lot of backgrounds, making the world feel incomplete. This doesn't help endear Alice to me, as the issue in general looks unappealing. I do think that Wynn's costumes for Alice when she borrows powers are legit. The Phantom Stranger costume was dope, and I dig her Banshee outfit. So, credit where it's due, those are pretty cool. Our last set of standalone issues function largely as breathing space. Unhinged as an arc was an emotional roller coaster, and Simone used those issues to not only give the characters some more personal focus, but to add in a layer of levity. Well, not hilarious, 8 and 9 are, for the most part, relaxing and funny, and help the reader to unwind. Issues 15 and 16 don't really have that same function. Both have some pretty heavy emotional character work being done. Whether that's Deadshot's vision as suicidal fantasies or Black Alice's willingness to accept flaying a man alive, these issues lean pretty heavy for me. This doesn't feel like a palate cleanser readying us for the next arc. This feels more like another step down into darkness. Which is a great setup for our next arc, actually, but it does leave me feeling a little tired and worn out. Depths was a pretty rough story for the Six, and they, and us, as the audience, haven't really had a moment to catch our breath yet. And we aren't going to get one. From here on out, my breakdown of Secret Six indicates that we're looking at a number of 3 to 4 issue arcs, so whatever decompressing we need to do, we better do it between stories. Because next arc, We got zombies. It's time for DC's Blackest Night event, spinning out of the Green Lantern family of books to crawl and shuffle and moan its way into the Secret Six. You see, as part of this event, deceased people all over the Earth are rising from their graves, and Deadshot has a lot of former allies in the Suicide Squad. And guess who wants Deadshot back? So join me next time as I break down a rather unique crossover between a book that had been cancelled for around 8 years and the Secret Six in Dance Macabre. Everyone, there are a million podcasts vying for your time and attention, and I'd like to thank you for listening to mine. If you would like to get in touch with me, to share a concern, request a series, compliment me, berate me, whatever you like, send me an email at cbbreakdown@gmail.com. Otherwise, thanks for listening.